A quiet mind is stronger than a loud voice. Welcome home, spicy ladies. In a world that rewards noise, rush, and replication, there exists a rare woman who chooses something else. She moves in silence. She thinks in layers. She acts on truth, not trends. She is the Sigma female, highly intelligent, inwardly driven, and unmistakably different. Today we'll walk through 15 soul-deep truths about why Sigma females don't think or act like anyone else. This is not a list. It's a reflection. And before we begin, if these words feel like your own voice whispered back to you, then Black Spicy Lady is your space. Subscribe to be part of a quiet revolution, one where inner power is enough for the woman listening who walks her own path, not out of pride, but because peace is non-negotiable. I wrote something for you. Choose Yourself Softly is not a guidebook. It's a gentle companion, a poetic inward journey for the woman who honors silence, who sets soft boundaries, who's tired of burning just to be seen. This is for you, the Sigma soul who wants to return to herself without guilt and live on her own terms with clarity and calm. Find the link in the description and the first pinned comment. It's not urgent. It's just waiting for you when you're ready. 1. The solitude compass. The Sigma female does not fear solitude. She is shaped by it. Solitude is not loneliness in her world. It's clarity. It's a clearing, a ritual, a reclaiming. She doesn't retreat to escape others. She retreats to reconnect with herself. Where others fear silence, she finds answers. She is the kind of woman who seeks depth in the absence of noise. She chooses moments where she can hear her thoughts, untangle emotions, and feel her own frequency without the distortion of the crowd. This solitude isn't always physical. It's energetic. Even in a room full of people, she creates a stillness around herself, a kind of invisible bubble where she stays untouched by the frenzy. She's the one who steps back when conversations get loud. The one who disappears for days, not to make a statement, but to make space. She doesn't chase connection. She creates sacred space and lets the right energy find her. This is not a phase. This is how she survives. Solitude isn't where she hides. It's where she becomes. 2. Intellect with intuition fusion. Her intelligence is not limited to logic, nor is her intuition vague or emotional. The Sigma female fuses both into a seamless, powerful way of understanding the world. She doesn't just think, she feels her thoughts. Her intellect is sharp. She analyzes, decodes, and sees patterns with ease. But she never lets numbers override nuance. She doesn't just ask, what's the smartest choice? She asks, what's the most aligned? In decision-making, she doesn't rush. She pauses. She listens to her body, her instinct, her logic. When all three line up, she moves. Before that, she waits. This internal method makes her seem mysterious to others. She's not easily swayed, not easily sold. She doesn't need everyone to agree because she trusts her inner signal more than any outer validation. In conversations, she reads between words. In relationships, she sees the space between intentions. In work, she knows when something is off before there's evidence. She doesn't brag about this. She just lives it quietly, consistently, clearly. Right now, if you are still watching, I hope this video can help you. Your comments motivate me so much, so I can make more videos which you like. So hit that subscribe button and leave me a message. Let's continue. 3. Resistance to pack psychology. The Sigma female was never built to follow the crowd. She doesn't reject people. She rejects patterns that feel hollow. She sees how quickly truth is traded for acceptance, how easy it is to confuse belonging with agreement. So, she stays outside the echo chamber. She doesn't need her life to look like anyone else's. She doesn't adopt beliefs just because they're trending. In fact, the more popular an idea is, the more she questions it, not to be difficult, but because she knows popularity and truth are rarely the same thing. This resistance doesn't make her rebellious. It makes her rooted. She walks alone not for attention, but for alignment. Her self-worth isn't tied to approval. She's willing to be misunderstood if it means staying in integrity. And that's why she often seems unshakable, because she's not anchored in opinions. She's anchored in something deeper. 4. Deliberate disengagement. The Sigma female doesn't disappear to be dramatic. She disengages with precision for her own preservation. In a world that glamorizes hustle, noise, and constant visibility, the Sigma female moves differently. When energy feels scattered, when conversations feel hollow, when a room becomes a performance, she steps back, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. She doesn't argue to prove a point. She exits to keep her peace. She doesn't ghost. She chooses silence as a message, a boundary, a recalibration. People may take it personally. They'll say she's cold, distant, detached. But here's the truth. Her soul is allergic to chaos. Her nervous system is attuned to subtle tension. When something's off, she doesn't wait for confirmation. She moves. She knows the cost of staying too long in the wrong space. It drains her, dulls her, disconnects her from herself. So, she leaves before that happens. Not in anger, but in clarity. Her disengagement isn't about closing off. It's about closing in. Returning to her own frequency. Reconnecting with what's real for her, not what's expected. This is how she remains sane in an overstimulated world. Not by fighting the noise, but by walking away from it entirely. 5. Depth over display. You won't find her shouting for attention. She doesn't perform. She doesn't posture. She doesn't curate a highlight reel to be seen. The Sigma female chooses depth over display every time. She would rather have one real conversation than 1,000 likes. She seeks presence, not performance, integrity, not applause. In a time where everything is broadcasted, she is an enigma. She shares when it feels honest, not when it's strategic. She posts when something moves her, not when the algorithm says it's optimal. She does not need to be seen to feel valid. Her value is internal, quiet, self-sourced. That's why when she does speak, people listen. There's weight in her words, stillness in her timing. People can feel that she's not seeking attention. She's speaking from center. This choice to live beneath the surface isn't avoidance. It's alignment. She prefers the underground, the conversations no one's having, the questions most avoid, the truths that feel too heavy for social media captions. You might not notice her at first, but you'll remember her. Not because she demanded your gaze, but because her presence stayed with you long after she left. She doesn't light up the room. She grounds it. 6. Strategic empathy. The Sigma female feels everything, but she doesn't carry everything. Her empathy is sharp but not scattered. She chooses where her care goes and who it's safe to give it to. She doesn't offer her emotional labor to those who drain. She doesn't overextend. She doesn't try to rescue people who have no interest in changing. This doesn't make her selfish. It makes her sovereign. She has learned, often the hard way, that not everyone deserves access to her emotional depth. That giving too much, too often, too easily costs her pieces of herself she worked too hard to reclaim. So now she gives carefully. She listens without absorbing. She holds space without collapsing into it. She loves without losing herself. This strategic empathy allows her to stay open yet protected. Soft but not porous, kind but not naive. She's not cold. She's clean. And her energy reflects that. She recognizes when someone is leaking emotion to control, when victimhood becomes a mask, when manipulation is dressed in vulnerability, and she walks away from it all. Not with judgment, but with discernment. Her empathy is sacred, and she treats it as such. 7. Identity beyond role. She is a woman before she is a title, before daughter, before partner, before leader, before friend. The Sigma female's identity doesn't come from roles assigned to her by society. She knows those roles can shift, collapse, or disappear. But the essence of who she is, that's immovable, untouchable, untitled. She doesn't derive her worth from what she does for others. Her value is not tied to being needed, praised, or positioned in a certain light. That's why she often confuses people. She doesn't behave like someone trying to belong. She behaves like someone who already belongs to herself. She may show up fully as a sister, a lover, a creator, but none of those define her. They're expressions, not foundations. She can walk away from any identity that starts to cage her. And she has many times because to her, freedom is non-negotiable, not even emotional freedom. She refuses to shrink into a version of herself that fits the expectations of someone else. That's why she often seems uncategorizable. You can't label a shape that keeps evolving. She is not rebellious for the sake of ego. She's original out of necessity because trying to wear masks made her sick. Pretending to be palatable made her soul go silent. So now she's done with roles. She chooses real. And if that makes her hard to explain, so be it. She's not here to be understood in a sentence. She's here to live in alignment, even if that means walking paths with no names. 8. The pause principle. Pause is her superpower. The Sigma female doesn't rush. She doesn't respond in the heat of the moment. She doesn't react out of emotional urgency. She waits, listens, breathes. While others race to fill the silence, she holds it. While others jump to conclusions, she watches. She's not slow. She's precise. Her pause isn't indecision. It's intelligence. It's emotional depth in motion. This shows up everywhere in her relationships, where she doesn't spill everything on day one. In conflict, where she withholds just long enough to see the real roots. In success, where she celebrates quietly without letting ego cloud clarity. She gives time a chance to speak. In a fast world, that's revolutionary. When people demand answers, she steps back. When pressure mounts, she returns to her breath. When the path is unclear, she doesn't force a move. She listens for alignment. This pause is what makes her dangerous in the best way. Because while others are playing out surface moves, she's tuning into the deeper game. She sees the patterns others miss simply because she didn't rush past them. She lives by rhythm, not reaction. She understands that silence isn't empty. It's layered, and that the best decisions often arrive in that stillness we're taught to skip. Her life may look slower from the outside, but inside, it's a symphony of intentional living. 9. The gentle no. She doesn't shout. She doesn't explain endlessly. She doesn't beg to be heard. When a Sigma female says no, it's soft but final. Her boundaries are not walls. They're thresholds, and you only cross them if you come with respect, truth, and clean intention. She doesn't need drama to defend her limits. Her no is not laced with anger. It's spoken with clarity, sometimes even kindness, but it stands like steel. People often underestimate her softness. They confuse her peace with permission. But when her energy shifts, when her tone cools, when her silence deepens, that's the signal. The door is closing. She's not afraid to disappoint. She's more afraid of betraying herself. She doesn't let guilt write her yes. She doesn't allow pressure to override her knowing. She doesn't say maybe when she means never. Her gentle no is a form of self-trust. It's not a rejection of others. It's a return to herself. And if someone pushes, if they question, manipulate, or demand, she doesn't engage. She exits quietly, cleanly, completely because she's not here to convince anyone of her worth. She's here to protect her peace, and nothing violates that for long. 10. Power in subtlety. Her presence doesn't announce itself. It unfolds. The Sigma female doesn't command attention. Yet, attention naturally shifts when she enters the room. Not because she's trying to stand out, but because she refuses to blend in. Her power isn't loud, aggressive, or exaggerated. It's subtle. It's layered. It's the kind of power that lingers after she's gone. The energy you can't quite name, but can't ignore either. She leads without demanding, influences without performing, and disrupts systems by simply refusing to play by their rules. She's not chasing authority. She is authority, the kind that's self-appointed and self-validated. You won't find her climbing ladders. She builds her own ground. That's why people often don't see her coming. They underestimate her calm, her quiet. But in time, they realize this is not an absence of power. This is mastery of it. Her subtlety allows her to move undetected through spaces, gathering insight, reading dynamics, observing without interference. She's 10 steps ahead without ever announcing her plans. And when she acts, it's precise, undeniable, permanent. That's the nature of her strength, not to shake the ground with noise, but to shift the entire room with presence. She is proof that the most powerful force in the room is often the quietest. 11. Inner governance. The Sigma female governs herself. She doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't seek consensus. She doesn't need approval to move, speak, rest, create, leave, love, or stop. Every decision filters through one channel, her inner authority. It's not ego, it's sovereignty. She has trained herself to listen inward before she looks outward. To ask, does this feel right for me? Before she asks, will they like it? She's not immune to doubt, but she's deeply allergic to living inauthentically, so she chooses alignment even when it's inconvenient. This makes her life look strange to others. She may walk away from jobs that pay well but feel wrong. She may leave relationships that look good on paper but feel hollow. She may reject praise that doesn't match her truth. She doesn't operate on rewards. She operates on resonance. And because of this, she builds a life that doesn't just appear successful. It feels right. She is her own compass, her own counsel, her own code. When she fails, she reflects inward. When she wins, she celebrates inward. Her process is personal, not performative. And in a culture that profits from our disconnection from self, her inner governance is an act of rebellion and deep freedom. 12. Sacred selectivity. Access to her is not automatic. It's earned. The Sigma female doesn't let just anyone into her world, not out of fear, but out of respect for herself, for her peace, for her limited energy. She knows the cost of openness without discernment. She's been there. She's given too much, trusted too fast, and paid the emotional bill quietly. Now she chooses carefully. She scans energy, not appearances. She watches consistency, not charm. She waits for depth, not declarations. She's not impressed by effort. She's moved by intention. Even in friendship, she chooses few. And with those few, she goes deep, creating bonds that feel ancient, honest, almost holy. But most will only see the surface, because she doesn't explain her distance. She doesn't justify her silence. She doesn't feel guilty for her selectivity. If someone feels entitled to her time, her energy, her truth, that's already a red flag. To be close to her is a privilege, one that must be honored, not demanded. Because when she does let you in, you are entering a sacred space, a place curated through pain, healing, boundaries, and rebirth. She guards it with care, not because she's hard, but because she's whole. 13. Emotional minimalism. The Sigma female doesn't suppress her emotions. She refines them. She doesn't pour everything out onto everyone. Her emotional world is sacred, not a spectacle. She feels deeply, intensely, richly, but she does not hand over her emotional life to be consumed, judged, or picked apart. This is emotional minimalism, not detachment, not coldness, but clarity. She chooses when to speak and to whom. She doesn't overshare as a means to bond. She shares what matters when it's safe, when it's true. She doesn't need to constantly express in order to process. She does much of that work internally through reflection, solitude, writing, silence. Others may misread her stillness as absence, but in truth, she's always feeling, just not always revealing. She knows the difference between vulnerability and overexposure. She doesn't believe that every feeling must be explained or that every emotion must be witnessed. Some truths are just for her. Some griefs are not meant to be understood by others. Some joys are too private to narrate. In this quiet discernment, she protects the integrity of her emotional life. And in doing so, she stays rooted in herself, not lost in the reactions or projections of others. 14. Time alchemy. Time is not something she spends. It's something she sculpts. The Sigma female treats time like sacred currency, not to be wasted, not to be surrendered to urgency. She doesn't just manage time. She designs it with intention, with awareness, with a deep sense of, does this truly matter? That's why her life may appear slower. She says no to a lot, declines invitations, skips obligations, opts out of busy. But beneath that slowness is precision. She values depth over duration, quality over quantity, meaning over motion. Whether it's a conversation, a day, or a season, she wants it to feel lived, not just survived. This is how she avoids burnout. How she creates sustainably. How she heals, not just functions. She doesn't fill her calendar to feel worthy. She empties it to stay connected. Her time alchemy is her quiet protest against a world that confuses movement with purpose. She knows what is rushed is rarely real. So she slows down, stays present, moves when it's time and not a second before. 15. Detachment from validation. She doesn't live to be liked. The Sigma female is free from the need for external approval. Not because she's unaffected, but because she's anchored. She's moved by her own values, motivated by her own inner compass, validated by her own sense of rightness. She's not rebellious for attention. She simply no longer needs applause to feel alive. That's why she doesn't adjust her truth to fit the room. She doesn't dilute her boundaries to seem nice. She doesn't twist herself into something softer just to be more palatable. She knows the cost of that game. She played it once. It nearly erased her. Now she's done. If people misunderstand her, she lets them. If they walk away, she doesn't chase because she has walked away from herself before, and she vowed never to do it again. Her detachment isn't coldness. It's devotion. Devotion to the self she's worked hard to return to. She no longer performs. She embodies. And that is the rarest kind of confidence. The kind that doesn't shout, it just is. Spicy ladies, the Sigma female does not think or act like anyone else because she was never meant to. She is the answer to a world too loud, too fast, too shallow. She walks slowly, feels deeply, speaks when it matters, and chooses herself softly again and again. If you saw your own reflection in these words, know this: you are not too much. You are not too quiet. You are not too different. You are the voice the world forgot it needed. And if you're still learning how to return to yourself gently, truthfully, without guilt, I invite you to begin with Choose Yourself Softly. This book is not a push. It's a pause, not a plan, a presence, not a solution, a remembering. You'll find the link in the description and the first pinned comment. Take your time. Your timing is sacred. Stay true to yourself. To all the spicy ladies, make life beautiful. Thank you for watching, and God bless.